Thank you.
Yeah. I'm loving my people runner. Oh my goodness, it is. Now I have two pieces. Again, everyone's like, did you? Oh, of course, yeah. Chances are, yeah, because Jewish women, like, we have to support each other. So I love supporting. Okay, that's so great. Oh my goodness, thank you. Okay, hi everybody, welcome back. So good to see all of your beautiful faces. Are you guys okay with me standing? Do you want to move the couch like a few inches back for yourselves? Okay, fine. Great. Thank you everyone for masking. And I feel always guilty that I got off my mask just to speak, but I just want everyone to be able to hear me. And yeah, are you guys, is everyone comfortable with it? Okay, okay. Okay, good. Hi, everyone. Oh, hi, come on in. I'm stalling just for you. Worth the stall.
Jewish Standard Time, people.
I know everyone is so punctual here, but we actually have a lot to learn today, a lot to talk about. Right, I know. And we'll see. Maybe I'm a little ambitious. Like, do you guys see, I come here, my husband says to me, like, you know, the little table next to my bed, he's like, I would think I'm married to like a college professor. Like I have like stacks of books. So when I walk into class, I'm like walking in with like there's this and there's this and there's this. And there's so much that we'll just have to jump right in. That's the only place to begin. So Julie, do you want to say anything before we get started? Okay. Yeah. Thank you all for coming. This works. Going. The Jewish calendar, how it's together, holidays, why we do it, what we throughout the whole year of Jewish calendar. And then on Thursday at 11:15, we have coming back for the world. So many of you for the very sad Israel on the So thank you all. We're taking donations until the 25th. They've already got the good news, so they already ordered their sweaters and their jackets that will make their money. You can give the check to me and you can make it to the Chaim Center, and I'm going to put it separate, and it's getting earmarked, and every penny goes directly to that. So that's beautiful. We're just going to pull it out of our account to the Beacon's account in Israel, and we're going to bring it to the guys. So so thank you all for donating. If you want to donate, it's there. And then the highlight of our week, of course, is Rabbi Gadi's, well, of course, it's Shabbos. I mean, how should I say it the right way? But of our new class schedule is Rabbi Gadi's class on Tuesday night. So I believe we're Jewish faith, and we're hoping for a full house. We really think that it's going to be very interesting. So that's Thursday night at 7:30.
Will there be Zoom?
And there will be Zoom as well. Of course, it's always better in person, but we will have it Zoomed, of course. So, am I missing anything? Okay. Oh, yes. Earlier, thank you. At 5:30 on Thursday night, Eve
and Rabbi Gadi are going to Zoom from their kitchen and do some Shabbos recipes, including his favorite rock and salmon that everybody loves. And they're going to do that via Zoom, a regular Zoom account in all of our classes. And then join us for Havdalah as we celebrate Shabbos at the I almost said the vegans, but the Levy's backyard for a beautiful Havdalah. And we have some guest speakers that will be here. More about it. We're not sure what time they're speaking.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned
tuned.
for more details, because this is an exciting Shabbat. We're having a whole bunch of festivities and activity around the whole weekend. So we're going to add this in. I haven't even told Julie yet, but fresh off the press, we're actually going to open our home for the third meal of Shabbat.
Love it.
With our guest speakers. So we're having Shalosh Shudas, we call it, right? Shalosh Sudat, the third meal, and that will take us into the Havdalah service in our backyard. So details will come out very, very soon. I know everyone, there's a lot going on. It's gonna be wonderful. Okay, let's jump in. So Rabbi David asked me to make a short video. Did anyone watch the video that I put out already this morning? You guys you're on it this morning. It's like before the class. Okay. So I shared an idea. Last class, we ended with a very powerful statement that these great rabbis said that character is really your only possession. And we also said that it could take an entire lifetime just to change one trait. So you kind of, I don't know about you guys, but in here, I kind of feel like it's going to be so much work to change one trait. I'm out. Like, this is who I am. This is how I was born. This is my life circumstances. We have all that chatter in our head that says, oh, just give up now. Just stop while you're ahead. It's going to be so much work. And really, you're going to change one trait in your whole life. So our sages say it is possible to change yourself. And the way that they say, if you want to change yourself, because we're ready to start a new course on changing and developing our character, herdel na'aset heva, those three words that mean when you do something again and again and again, it could become your nature. It's almost like saying, fake it till you make it, okay? Fake it till you make it. None of us are there. Maybe we'll never get there. But if we commit ourselves, consistency, that's the meme, Paula, the meme that I put, Tony Robbins this morning on our chat, consistency, just do it. Just show up again and again and again. And before you know it, you might change. So the famous story that probably many, if not all of you have heard of the great sage, the giant, the leader, Rabbi Akiva. Yes, are you familiar with that story, everyone? So just in a nutshell, Rabbi Akiva, who was 40 years old, he found himself in this moment, I don't know, who am I? I don't know if I could do it. He was sitting by a stream. He was having all the thoughts in his head. He had this incredible woman, the daughter of the Kalba Savua, who wanted his hand in marriage. And he needed to commit himself to changing his life, to becoming a scholar. He didn't even know the alphabet. And here he was ready to throw his whole life away, give up all this opportunity in front of him because he just felt like, who am I? I'm not going to change. And it was the water, the brook flowing by him that inspired him, because he saw that in the stone was carved by the water. And he said, if something as gentle as a drop of water treats something as hard as a stone, so too, maybe there's a little opening that the words of the Torah could penetrate my heart. And that's when he committed himself to changing his life, right? And he changed the Jewish world. So commitment, consistency, showing up. Thank you for all showing up again. That's what it's all about. So today we are starting the first big, glimmery, glitzy, exciting topic in the topic of loving your fellow as you love yourself. And that is love. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your fellow as you love yourself. Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. This sums up the entire Torah. It was actually the sage Hillel that was asked, could you sum up the Torah on one foot? And those were his words. He says, Don't do unto others what you wouldn't want to be done unto you. Love your fellow as you love yourself. And this is a complicated passage. How could you command a feeling? How can you command to love? It's an emotion. Either you feel it or you don't feel it. How many times in the Torah, and I don't have the answer, but maybe Susie does, because okay, how many times does it command us to love? I remember we were in a Parsha class maybe a month or two ago. It's the end of the Torah portion of the Torah, right? We're coming towards the end, and I gave you guys jobs. I said every time it says love, raise, like, count. Every time it says love with all your soul, count, right? I wanted, right? And it was at least 10 times in one Torah portion where God is saying love. So we have love God, and every Jew is supposed to say the Shema Yisrael, right? V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, that you should love God b'chol levacha, with all your heart, v'chol nafshecha, with all your soul. We're supposed to say that twice a day, the Shema Yisrael, the mission statement. So this idea of I am commanding you because I believe that you can love. It's a complicated topic. So first, let's talk about love. What is love? Like, baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more. What is love? Give me a definition of love. Anyone? Connection. Okay. Trust. Okay. I Googled it. Like I wrote definition of love. So I did see those two words. Beautiful. What else? Acceptance, unconditional love, right? Yes, that's like a higher level. What else? Does anyone know any of the quotes? Like, do you know like Lori Palatnik's her famous line about love, right? Do you know it off by heart? I wrote it down. Yeah, when you could like. So in simple, she says, what's important to you is important to me. And I dug deep into that this Shabbat when my kids wanted to play Catan for like the 5th time, because I don't like playing board games, and Shabbat is so long that we have to play lots of board games. So that's love, because it's important to them, so it's important to me. Any other definitions of love that you can think of? I mean, none is wrong, because respect. Oh my gosh, I love that. Anything else? Go for it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Okay.
Ooh, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys. Yes. So let's just take a little tangent on that. Does everyone here know the 5 love languages? Just raise your hand if you never heard the 5 love languages. Wow. Okay. So you guys have homework. You have homework to do. But in a nutshell, and all of us that do know it, we could probably we could rattle it off right now. There are 5 love languages, and you need to learn the love language of the people that you care about, right? That's the greatest gift you could give them, is love them with their language, because you might be totally missing the mark otherwise. So what are the 5 love languages? Acts of service, words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch. And we said acts of service, we're missing one, gifts. Okay, and gifts. Yeah, yes. Some of our relationships are really high maintenance. Yes. Yes. Quality time. So those are these incredible 5 love languages. Is that Gary Chapman? Okay, so if anyone wants, I have probably 2 or 3 copies of his book at home, and it's so worthwhile to learn it and to figure it out. Because as Deborah said, if you really want to love someone, you have to figure them out. The great scholar, yes. Okay, here is another quote. Okay, this is Ruchi Kovel from her new book. Okay, Ruchi says, love is the verb that helps us gain emotional intimacy. So that's the goal. The goal is emotional intimacy in our relationships. So love is that avenue, right? Without love, without that, we're never going to reach the levels that we want to get to in all of our relationships. So when God is saying love, there's a lot to love. There's a lot about it. There's lots of different ways of thinking about it. Let me ask you guys, has anyone here have you been taught the class, the Aish Torah class on the 5 pleasures, the 5 levels of pleasure? No? Okay, so we're going to do this as its own class. So there are 5 levels, right? And it's kind of like, you know, going first class, like we all want to fly first class. It's so nice when we get to fly first class. None of us want to be like, you know, holding on to the bumper of the plane, right? But that's the 5th. And the 5th level is the physical pleasure that all of us tap into every day. It's using our 5 senses. It's what we see, it's what we eat, it's what we touch, it's what we taste, it's what we smell, everything, and things that you can buy. And every single human being has that pleasure every single day, right? You open your eyes, like you could see beautiful things, you could touch, you could smell, it doesn't, right? That's the lowest level. If we take it up 1, the 4th level of pleasure is love. And if you think, and you could say it's what money cannot buy. I'm an 80s girl, so my favorite movie was Can't Buy Me Love. Did anyone ever watch that movie? Okay, that was like the best movie ever. I know it off by heart. I know the song Can't Buy Me Love, right? So you can't, no amount of money could ever buy you love. And then we go further and further to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th levels, which we'll learn that. We will learn the levels. Okay, so in the Torah, when the Torah speaks about a loving relationship, it uses a word. The word is vayeda, and he knew. So, and whenever, and this is many times in the Torah, it's like, and Adam knew his wife, ... and she gave birth. And Abraham knew his wife Sarah, ... V'tahar b'teled, and she gave birth to her child. And he knew her means he was intimate with her. And that is what you said, Deborah. The highest level of love is to know someone. So when God commands us to love God, right? There's so many commandments. God says you have to love me and you have to fear me. How do we love something that we don't know? So it means we have to learn, we have to understand, we have to connect the pieces, because we can't just love without working at it. And it's the same with our relationships. To really love is to understand, to get down on the floor and to make that puzzle, or to go to that sports game, even though it's not, you know, it's the last thing you want to do, right? Julie, you were on the meeting yesterday, or we had a staff meeting, and my husband's like, let's make a birthday bash. And he gave this idea because my husband and I, we have a birthday 1 day off. So he wants to have a birthday party. So we had this great idea, right? December 8th and 9th, okay? Yeah, so he's like, why don't we turn the Hanukkah party into a birthday party? And he's giving his idea of what would be the funnest birthday for him. And then he's like, you're so quiet. And I'm like, because there's nothing I'd rather not do in my life than what you just suggested. Like, right? I'm like, seriously, like that sounds like I'd rather go to the dentist and have my teeth pulled than do that. So yeah, so we'll see what happens at the end here. But talk about love languages, right? Like if it's not going to work, like you need to know each other. We need to understand. So that is love. So it says in the book of Bereshit, okay, in the likeness of God, man was created, right? We just had the creation, okay? So man is created like God, and we need to see human beings in our life like a miniature God. Like there's a piece of divinity in every single person, right? Every human is created in the likeness of the Creator. So our job is to go out and to find people's divinity. We need to learn people. We need to meet them. We need to look them in the eye. We need to understand their love language, because otherwise, how could we go and love our neighbor? So when I ask, do you think we could actually love our neighbor as we love ourselves? Is that literal? Is the Torah being literal? What do you guys think? You think no? Is it possible? Right, okay. So very good. Our sages actually have a bit of a debate about it. It's not sure, we're not sure that it's so literal that you could actually get to the level of loving someone the same way you love yourself. And our sages say, are like, you know, there's a lot of different halachot, and it says you don't need to spend as much money on someone else as you would spend on yourself. You don't need to go to that level, but what it breaks down to is don't do unto others what you wouldn't want to be done unto you. So that we could get to that level, right? And some of the sages actually say that we can get to the level of actually loving. So let me share a story or two. Okay, this is an incredible story, true story that happened at the time of the Roman Empire. There were two Jewish boys that grew up together in Israel. They became very good friends. And after a while, they both moved apart, okay? One was living under Roman control and one was living under Syrian control. And they stayed as close as they can, despite the distance. And there was a time when this fellow from Rome was visiting in Syria, and he was falsely accused of being a spy. So they brought him to the Syrian emperor, and he was sentenced to death. Now, he said, before you execute me, I have one final request. I would like to be granted to go back to Rome, to settle my affairs, to say goodbye to my family, and then I will come and you can execute me. The emperor, he laughed. He said, are you crazy? I mean, what would guarantee, how do I know you're going to come back? Like, that's ridiculous. No tracking devices in those days. So the Jew said, listen, I have a very close friend here in Syria. He'll stand in for me. We are so close. He'll be my guarantor. And if I don't come back, you'll take him and you'll kill him instead. So the emperor was like, I got to see this, right? This is going to be fun. So the Syrian Jew was called in, and sure enough, he agrees to take his friend's spot, and he's going to be the guarantor. And if his friend doesn't come back, he'll be killed. So, okay, so the emperor says, I'm going to give you 60 days. If you're not back on the dawn of the 60th day, your friend is dead. So the Roman Jew, he races back, he puts his affairs in order, he says his goodbyes. It's a very hectic time, and he starts back on his journey, and time is ticking. And in those days, it wasn't like, put your cruise control on your boat. It's like you had to wait for the winds to blow you. And time was really, really coming down to the last minute. And there was no wind for several days, and the sailboat was delayed. So by the time the Roman Jew arrived in Syria, it was the dawn of the 60th day. Was breaking, and at the same time they're taking his guarantor down to be executed. And in those days, executions were like, it was like a gala affair, so everyone's coming and the crowds are starting to gather together. And just before they're about to perform the execution, the Roman Jew comes running in. He says, wait, I'm back, don't kill him. And the Syrian Jew who's being killed, he says, no, you're too late. Kill me instead. And the executioner is like looking between the two of them, like he didn't know what to do. Kill me, no, it's too late. I got it, kill me, right? And the crowd was in an uproar. And finally, the emperor was called, because you can imagine all the tumult and all the noise. And the emperor says, in wonder and in amazement, he turns to the two of them and he says, I'm letting both of you go on one condition, that you make me your third friend. So this is exactly what God does to us. Because when it says in the Torah that you should love your fellow as you love yourself, right after that, it says, Ani Hashem, I am God. I want to be with you. Love your neighbor. It concludes with I am God, because unity and friendship is so precious that God wants a part of it. He wants to be the third friend. So that's what he's doing here. When we are able to love our fellow, we are able to love God. There's nothing that gives God greater joy than seeing his children in a relationship with each other and connecting and all that good stuff. Okay, so imagine a society where there wasn't love. And we don't have to imagine, we don't have to in certain places of the world, even in the US, right? In certain communities, there's so much gossip and chatter and then, I don't know, what are the words? Like just pulling each other apart. So much negativity that it's almost like, really? Do we want to be a part of this society? It's not, we don't have to dream it so far away, okay? Because it's there. So Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, says, Ukesha'ani la'atzmi ma'ani. If I am only for myself, who am I? Think about it. Think about, and don't give any names, but think about someone that you know to be selfish and just so self-absorbed. What is that person's life worth? What is it about? What is it all for? He could have all the money in the world, but if he doesn't have loving relationships, he's a miserable, sad human being. He pushes people away. Like what's life worth? So that's Pirkei Avot. It says, Hisha'ani la'atzmi, if I'm just for myself, ma'ani, what am I? We want these connections. We want this relationship. The Gemara tells us what heaven and hell is like. And it's exactly the same thing. In both situations, okay, there's a long banquet table. And everyone is sitting around the banquet table with food, delicious, amazing, and the smells, it's incredible. And some people are smiling and eating and enjoying and celebrating, and some people look miserable. So what's going on? So on half the table, or part of the table, everyone, by the way, has a long fork and a long spoon tied to their arms. Okay, this is a story in the Gemara, that heaven and hell will be a banquet table with people with utensils tied to their arms. But half the people, the ones that are enjoying and celebrating, are using the utensils to feed the person across from them. And the people that are in hell, they can't bend their arms. They haven't learned to feed other people in this world. So they're not going to learn in the next world. And they can't get the food in, so their stomachs are grumbling. They're miserable, and that is hell. It's hell for them. It's the same experience. The difference is the ability to give, generosity of spirit. You know, when the whole situation came down on Rosh Hashanah and my husband got COVID and we were like, what are we supposed to do? Like it was such a moment. So Eliza Beulah was with us, right? She was in our home. She was with us the entire time. And she kept saying, Eve, what is your prayer? Because I was like, I don't know. What are people going to think? What are people going to say? Like, I was so like wrapped up. She said, just take it all and put it into a prayer. What would you like? And those were the words that I used. I said, my prayer is that the people in our community have generosity of spirit. That was it. That's what it's all about. If someone has generosity of spirit, anything could happen. There's so much potential for beauty, for connection, for healing, just for peace. But as soon as there isn't that generosity of spirit, there's nothing to work with over there. So the Rambam, Maimonides, he says that the mitzvah of loving your neighbor as you love yourself, as Deborah said, it requires you to identify with him enough for you to want what he has for yourself. Okay? Like you need to identify, you need to see him. So here's a scenario, Deborah, okay? I don't know, I'm going to Jewel after this. I have to get supplies for tomorrow night. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna bump into someone, right? Chances are I'm starting to learn people in this neighborhood, So I have this opportunity of seeing someone and saying, how are you, right? We do this like 10 times a day, wherever we go. How are you? So usually by the time that person is ready to answer, we've moved on. We're like on the next file, right? Because we're not actually asking someone how they're doing. And if someone answers, what's the typical answer? Fine. So I say fine is feelings inside not expressed. Okay, fine is not, if someone says fine, they're not fine. That's like beep, beep, beep. Okay, they need 20 minutes, they need a coffee. They need to sit down. You need to look them in the eye. Sometimes you need to hold their hand. People are so isolated. People are so lonely. The plague of this century is just isolation and loneliness with all the connection, and we're so connected to the whole world. I have 5,000 friends on Facebook, and sometimes I feel like I don't have one friend in the world. That's just how it is. So the fine is not fine, right? We need to have a DMC, a deep, meaningful conversation with that person. We need to look them in their eyes, see another human being who is a mother, a lover, a mentor, a friend, a daughter. You know, sometimes I've shared, I think here, that in my past life, in my old life in Portland, I was very involved with the Chaver Kadisha, with helping bury the Jewish women of the community. And what I found to be so powerful was every time, I never knew who the woman was. I mean, every now and then I would know it's the mother of a friend, but I usually didn't know the person that I was caring for and dressing and preparing. But what I did see always was how the body told her whole story. I saw that she had surgeries and she had pregnancies and she nursed babies and she was all the relationships, everything. But you would never know that because you see someone in the store, how are you? Fine. You don't know what they're going through. The whole story is written on our bodies, right? We need to really look at someone. What are you going through? And everyone is going through something. And I almost think that we should just imagine every single person we meet to have a song in their forehead that says, I matter. I want to matter. Person, that extra love. They want that idea, that attention. Okay. So do we have any ideas? Let's put some practical ideas in what we could do to walk away with, like, I'm going to do 3 things this week that are going to help me love my neighbor more, almost as maybe even as I love myself. Any ideas from the crowd? Right. Thank you. Yeah. I have a good friend who's a very busy woman. What I learned from her, she was the principal of our day school in Portland, Aviel Brodkin, phenomenal person. I learned from her a trick, because we're all busy, right? So I want to give all the time in the world to everyone, but I might be actually rushing for carpool. So if I see someone, and I don't want it to be a superficial, hi, how are you? Fine, bye, so good to see you, be well. You know, if I want it to be a little bit more, I will say something like, tell me one thing about your trip, or tell me, how is your mother? Like, I'll just give it like one thing. I know, like, tell me one thing, right? We could all do that. We all have, that's the same time as, how are you? Fine. Give me one thing you're going through. Is there, and also really, really good to follow up with, let's meet. Let's set a time right now to meet. Text me right now. Let's put it down on the calendar. Okay? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I totally do that. And you know who needs it the most? The person that doesn't even have a smile inside them. They need it the most. Like this lady, clearly she was, yeah. Right. Wow. Wow. And so we just have to know that everyone is fighting a battle that we know nothing about, right? Everyone is going through so much, and we never know what someone else is going through. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, any other ideas? What we could do? We don't have limited time, limited money, limited everything, and yet we want to become bigger. What? Okay. Okay, beautiful. Beautiful. Anything else? Those are all great. Let's just like have them. There's lots of great ideas. My neighbor, when we were driving to Toronto, this was a really nice thing. I have a neighbor, his name is Chris. I don't know my neighbors very well, but Chris saw we were loading up our car and he walked over. I know nobody, like I don't know anyone. And I feel like kind of like it was the nicest thing that someone could have done at that moment. He said, "It looks like you're going on a trip. I'll keep an eye on your house. Are you expecting any packages? I'll take them into my house. I'll whatever." So nice. Keeping an eye on other people's property. Okay, just like I got you. Like just like I wouldn't want something weird to be happening on my house. I'm gonna make sure that my neighbor is not having something weird happening, theft, whatever. Okay. Here's a great one. Do you have one? Yes, commercial. Great. No, so starting this week, we are having a program, not a program, just like a beautiful initiative where we will always have challahs and soup, like gallons of soup, pints, I don't know, like, you know, those like, it's enough for 2-3 people with 2 matzo balls, chicken soup made with so much love, okay, in my kitchen. And they're here and you could, every time you come on a Tuesday, think of someone that is alone, that could use a visit and a cheer, and you could just take it and go bring it to them. Okay, so nice and free, and you don't even you never have to ask, you never have to tell me, and as much as we deplete them, I will fill it up. So yeah, okay, so that's, and you guys could be a part of it by delivering and bringing, and you know, Sue, when you bring someone to a Torah class, right? When do you remember we had that friend raise where you're like, I brought my neighbor. She was like kicking and screaming. Do you remember that? I'm just joking. I'm just joking. She was very happy to come, but that is actually something that you could do because all of you get something out of coming to the L'chaim Center. So something really beautiful in loving your fellow is like, if something talks to you, share the wealth. Tell someone about it, right? That's a big mitzvah. Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. Right. So part of giving is receiving, right? So it is, yeah, it's on both sides. Thank you for bringing that up. Sometimes we feel like we don't want to be on the receiving end, but if you're not going to take it, then that person can't do the mitzvah of giving. So yeah, it's a beautiful, that's how it's so like it works together. Yeah. Okay, well, if they don't want the soup, I mean, good soup, yeah.
I find that the few minutes of an opportunity to talk to someone and make their day a little better is anytime I'm checking out. If I'm checking out a Jewel, I'm checking out at Walmart, I'll always use that time to say, so how's your day going? And you know, what time you getting off today? And I say, yeah. Because I feel like their day is probably so monotonous and boring. And that if you don't really see them, they should be invisible.
Right.
So I feel that time I'm just standing here anyways, I may as well use it to see them and
Right.
chat with
You
them.
might as well, right? It's gonna take the same time. So what I said to hold that idea came to me because many years ago, like 18 years ago, I waited in line after a speaking engagement when I met Esther Jungreis, Representative Esther Jungreis. She had so many people waiting in line. It was like 10:30 at night. I felt so bad. She was like this little lady that was like in her late teens, just right. And she would stay until the last person. So finally, when I got there, like I thought she'd be like, okay, who are you? And you know, give me a bracha and send me on my way. But she didn't. And that's why I said held hands. Because she literally took my hands, and I'm assuming she did this for every single person, but I could close my hands and even feel her like bony hands in mine. And it was the most precious moment. And she said, what is your name? And she put her hands on my head and she gave me a blessing. Like I will hold on to that and cherish it for my entire life. Okay. So we're there anyways. It's not going to take more time, but we want to just make it more meaningful. Like I see you, I'm with you. And we don't have to use words. Sometimes one of the tools that Rochi speaks about in her book is do, don't say, right? Because actions speak louder than words, right? Yeah, Dana? Of course it does, right? Yeah, it's lovely. So beautiful. But they'll do that in 20 years from now. They will. They're getting that. Wow. With a little help, but that's brilliant. Right. So basically, that's a really good, like, we could all take this. We all have a cell phone. We could all program it for timers, right? We could all say, remind me in 2 weeks to call so-and-so. So it's like, it's taking it to the next level. People feel so touched just to be thought of, right? One of my favorite things when we did this challah and soup thing in Portland throughout COVID was just like knocking on people's doors. We had a list from our community, we had an elderly community. The joy to see someone open the door and that, like, you thought of me, you came to me, like, and yeah, you matter. It's like so precious, right? It's like Esther Youngbright's holding my hand, like I'm holding on to that. And I know some of my people in Portland are holding on to seeing their Rebbitzin at their home in the pouring rain, right? So we just have to, yes.
When my kids were little, I would tell them that when they got walk to the school bus, they would say thank you to the bus driver to drive them home. So, and they did.
That's so nice. Yes. Wow. They're listening. They're watching. Okay. So here's one more that no one said. And this one doesn't cost us anything. It doesn't take time. So the smile is definitely one, because wherever we go, we have to greet people with a beautiful countenance. That's a mitzvah, right? In fact, one of the ideas that is brought down in all the laws of loving your fellow is to greet people first. Okay, so smiling, greeting, good job. Another one that no one said is to pray for someone. And our sages have taught us that if you pray for someone else, your prayer will be answered first, more than if you just pray for yourself. So it's extra, it has extra ammunition. Like, and that's why there's initiatives where, like, you pray for me and I'll pray for you. When we were looking for a relocation, a job this past year, I had a friend that was also looking for one in Dallas, Texas, and we took each other's Hebrew names. And every Friday when we lit our candles, we would pray for each other. It was so beautiful. Like, there's extra power in that. Okay, so now I want to talk. Okay, so we have some good tips. We have some good ideas. Now I want to talk about the unfortunate pitfall of why we might not feel ready, able to love someone like we love ourselves. So remember last week, I gave like a character trait, and then we spoke about the opposite trait. Like I said, love, and you would say hate, and we went through all the different character traits, which we're going to speak a lot about throughout this course. So I'm talking about love, and let's be really real for a few minutes. Okay, very real. And I'll be very honest with you. This is something that I struggle with. And it's not hatred, because I couldn't hate anyone or anything. But sometimes I struggle with a seed of jealousy. And sometimes it's hard to really want the best for someone when you feel like there's something like it's such a when you feel jealousy. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Like it just comes and it's like, oh, it's so ugly. So this past week I had a crazy experience. Hope my mother's not on. Okay, she's not. Okay, good. She was on last week. So my sister came to town. I have one sister in the world. There's nothing I wouldn't give for my sister. I would give her my liver. I would give her my checkbook. I would give her anything. I made her shidduch, like I married her off to her husband. I caught her first child. It was on Rosh Hashanah, and then I walked 4 hours back home after helping her with her delivery. There's absolutely nothing I would not give to my sister. If she's in a pinch, if she ever needs something, I've never said no. And yet, the person that I love so much, sometimes I feel jealous of. So I have to look at myself in the mirror, because if we're trying to get to this place where we love our neighbor as we love ourselves, and we can't even love our own sibling as we love ourselves sometimes, then we have work to do. We have our work. So you could, but how does that work? Because our sages are saying that to love your neighbor is to want the best for them. I agree. Yeah, it's both and, right? You're holding all these human nature. So here's what I want to teach. Every trait, no trait is bad or good. Really important to know that. No trait is bad or good. We just have to find the right balance. So a trait like jealousy that God put here in the world has a purpose. And there's actually a good part of jealousy. There's actually a productive way to use jealousy. Does anyone want to guess what it is? Yes. So in Hebrew we say, Hinot Sofrin Harbe Chochma. That if we're jealous of people that are more elevated than us, and the way Sofrin is righteous people, it's scribes, it's learned people. Harbe Chochma, it will push us to want to learn more and to become more. So that's the good part of jealousy, right? We don't want to lean too heavily on jealousy, but even a trait as jealousy, the 10th of the 10 commandments, like do not covet, it's a lack of faith when you're jealous, when you think, wait, I should have something that I do not have. That's like saying, no, God, you gave me the wrong package, right? And it's a bad trait, and yet there's good in it. So I'm still trying to figure out why it is that I'm struggling with the person I love so much. Why would I have any jealousy towards her? And I don't know. It's only two of us. This is something I'm dealing with my children right now. Like sibling rivalry is so real. Like they're all like lump them in the same house, so they have like the same rules, and yet they're all different people. Like, I remember when one of my kids had fever, like I'm thinking like when I had little kids, and they would say like, Mommy, I also want like Tylenol. And I'm like, but you're not sick, right? But it tastes like a candy and I want it also. It's not fair, right? That's how we're like that, adults. Like, it's not fair. Why don't I have what she has? So I'll tell you my take on why jealousy could be so close to home with the relationships that we love so dearly. It's because it's close to home. It could have been you. I have never felt an ounce of jealousy towards the president of the United States of America. Never. In fact, I would never want that, right? And yet, and here's another example. It's such a beautiful day today, okay? But I assume in a couple weeks, it's not going to be that beautiful. And on Shabbat afternoon, I'm going to be walking home from shul in the rain, in the sleet, in the snow, right? And I might look up and see a bird just like soaring through the sky. And I might say to myself, wow, I'm schlepping and we're with our boots and we're like so uncomfortable. And that bird is just soaring. Am I going to be jealous of that bird? No? Would anyone be jealous of a bird as majestic as it could be? Liz is like, maybe. You're such a musician. You're such a musician. Okay. Maybe, but probably not. Because we're not ever going to be a bird. It's not close to us. It's not. Right. Beautiful. Okay. So you can appreciate it. But if someone, kind of like scoots by me in a car, a warm, heated car, and just like with the music blasting and so comfortable with their coffee and all that, could I possibly feel a little bit more like, I'm not going to be jealous of the bird, but I might be a little bit like that feeling of why not me? Right? So I would never feel that way, even if it was on Shabbat. Right? When it was like a crazy storm. Do you remember on Rosh Hashanah? I remember like the skies like opened up and like boom. So we were stuck in the storm. Not only were we stuck in the storm, we were stuck at the cross lights, right? And it was red. And if you don't press it, and we didn't press it because it was a holiday, so we're just standing there. My wig was like upside down. Like I was like, my kids had dirt in their eyes. Like we can't see. It was crazy. And three beautiful people pulled over, three separate people on our walk home, pulled over to say, get in the car. And we said, thank you so much. You're so kind, but we're fine. Gosh, we came home, our underwear were wet. Like everything was wet, layers and layers. Everything was like, we were soaked to the bone. So that was funny. So I would not feel jealous of someone in the car, but you understand the idea that the closer it is to home, like my sister, like we grew up in the same home. I could have had her life. She lives 5 minutes away from my mom. When she needs help, like she's like she was on vacation and my mom is watching her 6 kids. And and like when she wants to come for Shabbat, she's like, I'm coming. Or if she doesn't feel well, my mom cooks for her or sends the cleaning lady over for her. All those things that are so close because I could have had that life, right? So it really, really hits and you feel it. And we need to notice it. When we feel these things, we're not bad people. We just need to notice it and say, you're here, Mr. Jealousy, like goodbye. I don't want to have you as part of me. I want to love. I want to love the people close to me and the people far from me. Okay. Yeah. Runs the world. He runs my world, and he runs my world for the good.
So when it's just thought for me, right. That's literally what I'm supposed to
Yeah. So what you're saying, I might have mentioned, there's the Yiddish the word peckle. Peckle is a package. And my grandmother used to say that we all have our own package, our own peckle. If we would take our peckle, a little, like, imagine it like on a stick, like a little hobo thing, and we would all put it in the middle, we'd all go and choose that same one, meaning it's custom designed for us. Okay, so I want to bring out 2 more little lessons and then we're going to close. So one lesson, this is a crazy story that happens in the Tanakh, in the Torah. There were 2 kings, Rehavam, who was the son of King Solomon. He was the king of Jerusalem. And there was another king, it was split, the monarchy was split. His name was Yeravam ben Nevat. He was a king in Yehuda. And this man, Yeravam, he didn't want the Jewish people to travel to pilgrimage up to Jerusalem for the holidays, right? For the 3 festivals that the whole Jewish people would pilgrimage. He didn't want that to happen for his honor, because he didn't want people to see, oh my gosh, there's another king, the real king, the bigger king in Jerusalem. All his followers from Yehuda would see that, it would take away from his honor. Okay, so our sages tell us that there's 3 things that will take us out of this world. Even if we're living in this world, we can't appreciate or enjoy it if we have these 3 things. And they are Hakina, jealousy, hataiva, desire, lust, v'hakavod, and honor. Those three things are so despicable that if we feel them and we harbor them within us, it will take us out of this world and the next world. We can't truly enjoy living in this world if we're always feeling like we want honor, we want all our desires met, and we have jealousy. Okay, those are three things that we need to uproot. So this man, Yerovam, this king, great person, he was so consumed by his honor and his jealousy over the other king that he does the craziest thing. He tells his people, don't go all the way to Jerusalem. We're going to build an altar right here. We'll bring sacrifices right here. He goes against God. Okay, it says in the Torah, Shalosh Regalim, on the 3 festivals, everyone is supposed to go up to the temple. And he's telling his people, no, we're not going to do that. That's old school. We're going to make a temple right here. We're going to have an altar. You don't need to go. And God reprimands him. And God gives him the opportunity to do teshuvah, to come back. And these are the words. God says, Chazor bach, return to me. God basically says, I love you. Don't do this. Seriously? You're making a mistake. And you're not going to believe what he does. He's so irrational about his desire, and his jealousy is taking him so far away that he says, Va'ata, va'ani, va'ata ben Ishai, David ben Ishai, like King David, you, me, and you and Ben Ishai. He's basically saying to God that he wants to walk first in Gan Eden. It's like ridiculous, right? Yerovam says to God, who is going to walk first? God is giving him the opportunity of a lifetime to do teshuvah, to repent, to come back, to change his ways. And he's like, hold on a second. Who is going to have the upper hand? His jealousy made him completely irrational. It's really, really crazy. And it actually, this Rabbi Shmulevitz, he says that had he fixed his ways, he would have gone first, right? It was the ani. God says, I will go and you will go, and Ben Ishai, David Ben Ishai, you will walk together in the Garden of Eden. It's going to be good. And he's become so irrational that he totally blows it. And unfortunately, he dies. And that is his end. So I'm going to end with one thing. We're at the beginning of the Torah, Bereshit, creation. Then we had Noah. Okay, Noah. They start the world anew, and after Noah and his descendants come out of the ark, right? There's a few things. They build an altar. Noah, when we spoke about this in our Parsha class, he plants a vineyard. He wants to get himself drunk. He's like, whoa, is this all on me? I'm going to be starting the world with is this for real? Like, I don't know if I believe in myself so much. His descendants go on and they plant a tree. Does anyone know what the tree is called? It's called an Eshel. Aleph, Shin, Lamed. And Eshel is an acronym for 3 things. Aleph, achila, to eat, to give someone to eat. Shin, shtia, to give someone to drink. And Lamed is lina, to sleep. That God says to the descendants of Noah, you guys did great. You loved and you were kind and you worked so hard and you took care of all the creatures. And now it's time to take all that you learned in kindness and generosity and apply it to mankind. That was just the learning ground. Now this is the real work. It's taking our loving kindness and bestowing it on our fellows, on our neighbors, on our friends, even on the people that are closest to us. That sometimes those are the hardest relationships to love. But the people in our life, and no one is in our life by mistake. Every single person in your life is there for you to give to and you to grow from. And the best relationships that could really, really grow us are parenting, child relationships, and spouse relationships. Those are so challenging because they're in your face 24/7. They share your living space, your kitchen. Can you please not put your socks on the floor again? This is like a recipe for growth. And God says, you have everything that it takes to do it. Now go and love. So first mitzvah is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And maybe we won't ever get to like exactly as ourselves, but I think we could get to very, very high levels if we really, really work at it and really expand ourselves in the supermarket or wherever it is. Set yourself messages to just love for free. Ahavat chinam. To love free, unconditionally, as you said. Okay, that's it for today. And thank you. Thank you all. You're very welcome. Good. I'm so glad. I feel like there was an announcement.
Thank you, Eve. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Did I put it on your?
Okay. Julie. Yeah. So I wish you brought that up. That's such a good conversation. Should we talk about that next week? Let me write it. You want to come on? Yeah. I'm going to be here for a little bit. I have to be at the museum. Well, I don't think so. I said, not all in the reach. I don't know yet. Yeah, I mean, I should be going to dinner. You want to come at around? When I get out. Yeah. Okay.
I'll text you after I see what time it is.
Okay.
I actually, there's a way.
Okay, so you want to schedule now, or should I check? It's the last.
And well, can I do M? Want to end meeting for us?